Here we are again with the 4th edition of Stanley Chilson's films. And the first here is the country fair at the Federated Church. And we see the man throwing a mic over the wires. And this was what we had at once. Now, of course, we have the underground wires. And the doll carriage parade, the little pixie and the little Dutch girl. And we had a beautiful doll. Well, here's the little pixie, here's the little Dutch girl, and a beautiful doll in a very nicely decorated carriage. And they're lined up here because they're going to get a ribbon. I don't know who the lady is that's passing the ribbons out, but somebody out there must know. And here come the bicycles. And we have a little, I don't know if it was a girl or a boy on a boat. And there's a little clown pedaling away in his little trike. And another boy out of line. I think he's losing his ribbons. And round they go. And of course, they're ready to get an award. And all the onlookers here. Anyone remember? Anybody out there possibly was in this parade? We don't see the bicycles or the doll carriages much anymore. It was a little girl pedaling. I think we don't see the doll carriages because the girls have American dolls or Barbie dolls now. They don't think about having baby dolls anymore. We have career girls now more than girls that want to get married early and have a family. The background is the Murphy House again. So this is Union Street that has been blocked off. And you can see the man's store in the background on the left. And this was a good turnout for this affair. How proud these children must be to be recognized and to win a ribbon. You can see the store in the background. And this is Mrs. McBride. She's giving out awards. I don't recognize the gentleman with her. She's giving out tickets now. For what? I don't know. And see this fortune-telling booth here. I don't know who was in there, but you could have your fortune told that day. Here we are at the horse show with the Palominos. They were English riders. I guess in those days they had a lot of horse shows. You recognize anybody? And here we have a spirited horse. And who is this girl with that English outfit? And we got a wonder horse. round and round. And he comes over to his owner. I think he must have been on a tether or something. And he tries to attempt to go up on a pedestal. And he made it. Gets a treat. Now he's going to try to untie this rope. That's a clever horse. Shakes a leg and gets a treat. I don't know what, there must be treats or something on the ground there. And now he attempts to lie down on the sawdust pile. And there he goes again. And watch what's going to happen. The man stands on his back and is juggling. Look at that. Now a young boy is going to get a ride on this horse. Now we see they're going to take down the fence. I guess they're preparing for a ball game. It's going to take a while to get this fence down. Well, I guess he's got a hit. These are all the onlookers. It's rather hard to spot anybody, but maybe somebody recognizes some of these people. And the girls with their dresses. As in those days, most of them wore dresses. And of course we see Ed Hale is in the midst of them all. Some more pole climbers. The first ones up, of course, have the most difficult time because their pole is well greased. I don't know. I don't think he's going to make it. Well, get a grip on it. Up, up, up. Oh, I don't know. It's very hard to do this. And there's a little blondie. He's going to try. And this is the first time I've seen a girl attempt this. And she's doing right well. She knows how to place her feet and legs. She's giving it her all. Oh, somebody got a dollar bill. Look at that. Ooh, that pole is very tall. I can't believe this is a man. He's going up after this. And there's somebody way up on top. Boy. And we have another sawdust pile. With that little blonde boy in the middle. They tell me Roy Kufal was a blonde boy when he was young. Could this be him? Recognize anybody out there? Well, back again, I guess, with the baseball and the horses in the background. Well, here we are at a Sunday service, and notice all these cars lined up on Rockwood Road. And this is, of course, a mass being held, and We see they're on both sides of the road, and in back there was lots of parking available then, I guess. The Grange still looks the same today. Do you know who these people are? It's slowed down a little bit so that maybe you can see better. People are coming from between the cars that are parked on the side. It was a huge crowd. And who is this gentleman? Here comes Walter Burke with Florence and the daughter Barbara, who's giving somebody a poke. And there's my husband coming out with a light jacket on the left. Boy, that must have been a full hall. On the left, you see Al Ravinski smoking. And there's Tom and Ed and Al with the backs towards us. There's Tom and Ed and Al. I don't know who these ladies are, but they kind of look familiar. I think that here comes Donald and Eleanor Lang. She's looking back to the left. And that might be Eileen in the middle. Eileen Lang. And we're lighting up again. And Matt Phelan is coming out, and I think that's his wife in the doorway. He's strutting along. And this is Arthur Nispel. Arthur Nispel and his wife Eleanor. He's carrying probably his music because he played the organ. He was the director of music. And that little boy with Matt Phelan could possibly be his oldest son, Jimmy. And Matt again with Father Bailey. Father Bailey was the first priest for the church, and he also went to the prison and gave Mass there. St. Jude's Carnival, I have never seen rides before at the carnivals that we have had, except when they did at St. Jude's parking lot. This is a train that looks familiar, sort of like the one that Holmes has on Community Day, and also when they have the Halloween parades. And this is another horse show, which drew quite a crowd. Maybe it's the same horse that we saw earlier. See, this is the road going around the pond at City Mills. And we'll soon see the booths that they have put up. Look at the parking here. Some young people out in front of the booth.
a chance. Come, 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 come into my town, darling. We will never part.
And a policeman there probably is Mr. Rockland. Mr. Campbell. You're gonna see Father Bailey shaking a hand, and that tall priest, I think it's Father Walsh. Father Walsh was a priest at the Blessed Sacrament before he came to Norfolk. And this may be Fred Land, the policeman. Now we come to the Grange, which of course we see more voting. There's the man with the hat over his heart. Yeah, he's a very happy guy. This gentleman, I really should know who it is, but I can't offhand. This is Dot Campbell coming out with him. Could it be one of the Callahans? I hope somebody lets me know. And I think this is Bill Lynch coming out here on the left. He's having a problem walking. Do you know these ladies? And here's the young Johnny Robbins walking with his buddies, ready to vote. And Ted Weber putting on his coat. I used to have a pair of boots like those with a fur top. I think I still have them. Really antique now. I don't know who this gentleman and lady are. But these are the Murrays, Helmy and George Murray. And this tall woman coming out, it could possibly be Olga Pitt. She was a very tall woman. And Ted and a friend. And some little tykes coming out. And there's another little one with a snowsuit. And here comes Olive Day with a fur collar. And soon we'll see Mrs. Hattie Day. Here she is in the middle. That's with her hat on. I don't know this family. Anybody recognize them? And you're going to see Mrs. Bremlist. She was Bob Bremlist's mother, and he had the greenhouse, the family gardens, on North Street. Who's this young lady? Does anybody out there recognize her? Now we have St. Jude's Mass. And I see Tom Ravinski on the right with his brother John with the hat on. And that's John on the right with the cigarette. And Tommy Schultz dancing around here out front, this little guy. And maybe this is Barbara Burke and her mother and father. In the background, I can see Henry Shibley. This is Al and Ann Ravinski here on the right. And in the background, I can see Mr. and Mrs. Ravinski. And this is Mrs. Murray coming towards us. And Henry Shibley in the middle there, and Mrs. Ravinski, Mum Ravinski, coming towards us. And there's that Tommy again. This is Mr. and Mrs. Ravinski, my mother and father-in-law. And this family, Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, Helen and Bill, and these little boys, Tom and Bill Crane. And Mr. Lang is coming here, the bald-headed man on the left. They had 11 children in their family, and that was Father Bailey. And now we're at the Federated Church. Do you know anybody? This fellow here with the brown jacket, who is he? Somebody must know. And there's a little boy in a brown suit. He just stands there. Maybe one of you little boys out there recognize him. Would be big boys now. He just stands there to have his picture taken. That's quite a hat with a long feather or something on the back of it. I never saw a hat like that before. There's some interesting chapeaus. The hat shops did a flourishing business in those days. There's another hat that looks interesting. There's this little boy. Puts on his hat. The little boy with his arm in a sling, I had been told once that Phil Lukens had his arm in a sling. Does that look like a young Phil Lukens? And here comes a choir member, I guess. This is an interesting outfit, that hat. You'll see her again with a red jacket and sort of flowers parted on the sides of the hat. Here she comes again. That, real classy, huh? And that woman that's on the left, her hat has a bunch of white flowers in the front of it. Here comes another woman with flowers. And this is Lula Herder, I believe, on the left, turning around and coming toward us. Looks very much like Lula. And there's Ted Weaver. A little girl with a red coat on, and here comes a gentleman with some boxes and papers. I don't know who that man is. Could it be Mr. Hamlin? And here comes Doris Carr on the right. And who's the lady with the fur jacket? Mrs. Astor? I don't know. She's pretty glamorous. That man looks familiar. Maybe that was Mr. Hamlin. This is Carl, the minister was Carl Hall, and I think it was his wife. Now we've slowed this down so that maybe you can recognize some of these children. Who's that tall fellow? Somebody dropped something on the step, I guess. The tall girl. Comes a cute little girl with a flower in her hair. That might be Helen Robbins with the long dark hair, tall girl. This was the class of 1947. And we see there are more girls in that class than boys. I guess that was the norm. And there, of course, is Mr. Washburn, the principal. And guess what? We're going to see another parade. As Barbara Streisand sang, "Don't rain on my parade." But it was a rainy day. And see, the barn has collapsed in the background that we had seen in earlier pictures standing. And Bill McNeil, I think, in this light outfit, followed by Al Ravinski, then Ed Ravinski, and Charlie Stone with the army outfit. This young sailor, golly, he looks a lot like one of the Connors, but I don't know. Could it be Paul? And Donna Lang here with the light trench coat. And this is Malcolm Green coming up, leading, without his cane. This gentleman with the hat on, it looks like Wes Bonney. He's winking. He did have a scout troop, and some of the scouts and Girl Scouts, and we'll see some of the children with flowers, not as many children as we have seen in the past. We have a field day. This is before the Lang's barn burned down in 1949, so we think it is 1947 or around there. And we see, of course, our esteemed Ed Hale with a pipe in his mouth. I don't know who these women are. The one in back looks familiar. She almost looks like a Sullivan. This is Walter Burke. It's a hot day, I guess. And who are the women here? And the gentleman? Who knows? And who are these people under the umbrella? Hello. We have some races. And there they go. And here's the boys, the little boys running. Oh, we have some more coming here. Boy, oh boy, I wish I could run that fast. And here we have another relay race. Come on, girls. The boys are after them. On your mark, get set. Oh, we have an egg race with spoons. Some little girl keeps dropping hers. Well, it's not an easy thing to do over the bumpy ground. Now we have tables all set up here. They must have had some sort of refreshments, and I guess that's Ed Hale up in the loft. I remember the dances here and the parties. There we go with the wheelbarrow race. That's a hard thing to do. We have the train station with a crossing guard because they didn't have any other means. There were no gates put up, so this gentleman stood there when the train was coming. He'd have to stop the traffic. The ladies' station here was papered with a great variety of strips of wallpaper, which were often commented upon by strangers, and warrants of our elections or articles on voting were posted on the station house and were sometimes taken down by passengers to Norfolk, Connecticut for amusement. The first railroad agent was Josiah Ware, who kept a large livery stable for those who wished that accommodation. That was the New Haven train going by, but who was this? Was the gentleman in the middle of the road? More voting at the Grange. Well, we first had to have a cigarette, of course. They were cheap to buy in those days, and no one ever thought of having cancer because of them. This looks like Phyllis Gagliani, whose husband was a doctor. I guess was him too. He was a doctor at the Norfolk prison. Now this is interesting. This is Mr. Campbell, our town clerk, and in back of him Mr. Freeman. And I wonder if that's Georgia Jones's mother. She looks a lot like Georgia. And notice the walls. They had knotty pine. I didn't know they had knotty pine on those walls. And there they are. And look at the one ballot box. Can you imagine? All the chairs are around, and there's the women checking off the voters, and here comes a voter putting his ballot into that box. And what are these men passing out? This is still the Grange with the apartment building in the back. And this little old lady, we've seen her in film before. Here's the post office. And I never remembered it being blue. It's a dry cleaning place now. The dry cleaning establishment. Never knew that it was a blue building. This is a tramp. Either he's coming from the tramp house from overnight stay or getting off the train. There's a train. See the background? Geneva Street, Geneva Avenue. Mrs. Geneva Hall lived in that house there. Anybody out there remember our centennial? It was something you could never forget in 1970. We celebrated the incorporation of our town after the separation from Rentham. The end of the centennial was a letdown after all the antics we went through. I wrote about this for the Boomerang, but we never saw it in the paper as yet. These are competitions with the various bands. Then were held at the Freeman Centennial School. And you can see the trailers in the background. Probably more for the horses. Let the trumpets blare. Here are the bagpipers. They're colorfully displayed. Hoot Mon. All the different kilts represented the clans. And the judges are there to judge. See all the trailers in the background? Have you ever been to a tattoo? That's what they call the gathering and the display of the clans and music. And among the judges, you will see here in the blue, that was Alan Mackey. The Queen is there. And the man in white was Emil Petrovic, and there's Bill Wright talking with the top hat. Johnny Robbins here on the left, Emil and Alan. This was the horse competition. And these were the English riders. They also had the Western riders, but I don't think there's any in this film. There may be some of you out there that remember being in this competition. We had quite a few horses in Norfolk at the time. The horse tail is braided there. Now they're all going to be lined up. And I guess the ribbons will be passed out to those who have won in this competition. And there's a distinguished looking Sam Johnston, our police chief, along with Mr. Wood, Bruce Wood. He was the head of the civil defense. And there's Alan Mackey talking to the chief. And the judge, Dwight Church, we saw him at the top hat. What is Alan doing? And these two gentlemen apparently aren't in the Centennial Parade or anything, but they must be important in judging. And you see all the trophies down here on the left and front that are going to be given out. And that was Emil Petrovic. He was our selectman. And here comes Walter Holmes and his wife, Eve Thayer Holmes, tossing his hat up on his cane. He was our mayor, honorary mayor, for this centennial. And this is our queen, Debbie Veen. She was the only married contestant. A very pretty girl. She was the daughter of Marie and George Clinton. And there's Mr. Holmes and Eve with her. And, of course, Bill Wright. And Mr. Manners, who was the superintendent of schools at the time. And here comes Bruce Wood. And our chief, and Emil. Or Emil, as they might say. Emil or Emil, but he was a nice gentleman. And there we have the chief and Reeve Bolter and Wood and Mr. D. Iannello, who was the principal of King Philip High School. And there he is with Olive Day on the end. And we have one of the Wampanoag Indians there with his feathers and his hat. And this is Mr. Robbins getting up. And he's joining them. And I don't know who the boy in the black top hat is on the left. Is it possibly one of the Johnstons? And they're handing out the trophies. Walter Holmes gave out a trophy to Mr. Robbins. I remember that we won one for the float that I was on. I got the furniture from the man across the street, Mr. Cundy, and I engraved our own trophy because I was working for a wholesale jeweler at the time. And these gentlemen in the bright red outfits with the black hats, they were, there's my husband, and with Dwight Church on the right. They had their beards then. But the fellows, Mr. Walter, no, this is Ensalaka, I believe. Either that or Mr. Rayner, but I think it was Mr. Ensalaka you saw going by. And that looks like Mark Ravinski with a tan jacket. I wish I could recognize more people. You're going to see the bleachers with people sitting and watching this. This is in the field, back of the Freeman Centennial School. The trappers, Mike Burke was one of the trappers. This is one of the floats that we had in the parade. And you'll see some more of them. This is the final judgment, I guess, of the floats. And we had many floats. Watch this the animal. I don't know, was it a beaver or what it's supposed to be, and it rises up. Hey. And here are the trappers with Pocahontas or Sacagawea. I don't know, one of the Indian princesses, I guess. And they're buzzing the queen. And this is an interesting float. And the young junior bells. Debbie Wickland was the queen of the junior bells. And here we come with, here we go again. I thought we were going to end up with another float, but this is the junior bells float. And they got a trophy. How nice. This is Marlene Craig setting up on the bar. She was our treasurer at one time, our tax collector actually, and her son was the tree warden. Down with all saloons. The girl in the brown here and then looks a lot like Dee Dee Holmes. Possibly is. And this is the Emmanuel Baptist Church float. This anvil here walking, I think, is Chuck Warning. Chuck Warning from Werning, from Mirror Lake. The Anvils were quite a rowdy group. I think you probably remember we have one working for the assessors. This is Holmes's. And that young boy might be the one we saw before, standing alongside Johnston. And this is another shot of the Holmes bus. This is the float that I was on, that we set it up in my backyard. That's the furniture that I got from across the street. And this is Winnie Lang, the yellow outfit. That was the queen of the bells, Debbie Wickland. And here we have the Telephone Girls. Very nice float. We had some wonderful floats and some real crazy ones, and I hope someday we'll be able to show some of the slides of our centennial. They have been shown a couple of times, but for all you young people out there, it might be interesting to see your mothers or your fathers. And this is Winnie Lang with her back towards us, and those little boys were Jan Newman's boys. And this was the best float. This looks like Sabu. Who was he talking to? Under the elephant. That was a big papier-mâché, I think, elephant. And we had clowns, peekaboo. And there they are, with a bunch of children sitting there with their balloons and shaking the balloons and having a great time. And guess what? They had a real lion. And there it is. And there's the lion trainer. That was quite a float.
My darling, I need you to call my own and never do wrong.
And of course, they got the best of the awards.
Your little hand, I'll go too soon. That all is so grand. Please, hold
I don't know if Mr. Chilson took these films. I don't ever remember Mr. Chilson. I wish I did. Perhaps he was not alive at this time. Maybe somebody else took these films. I really don't know. Perhaps someone out there can tell me. And these people I don't know, but there's Mr. Robinson. Who was the woman with the white hair beside him? She's pretty cozy. Look at that. She gave him a kiss. Well, doing it again. And that woman in yellow, I looked a lot like Dot Ray. This is Fran. First of all, we'll say Dwight Church, the hanging judge. There's Fran Coughlin and Jane Sullivan waving. Fran Coughlin's husband was Bill, our town accountant, and Jane's husband was our veterans agent, Arthur Sullivan. There's Mr. Manus again. And our barbershop float. They were great. Oh, here comes the firemen, testing their hose. See how fast we can get that water flowing. Oh, pretty good. Hurry up. Whoops, down we go, but we're going to get that water going. Oh, look at that. I guess that's something. See how fast our firemen were? They were on call, I think, at that time. And there's the band performing. And the Minutemen with their Minutemen hats on. And this is the school, the back of the school. And they had many booths here, souvenir booths. And we had paper, we had false money, wooden coins, plates, aprons, many souvenirs that some of us probably still have today from this centennial year. Those gentlemen in red with the black hats and the ties, those were the vigilantes. No one knew who they were. All through the year, no one had a clue. They would do things, and maybe that's Fran Burke waving. And we had the greatest time with them. We didn't know until the end, when they had the parade, who they really were. Roger Bryant was one of them because he married Yvonne Burke. Burke's have the restaurant here in Norfolk. Oh. And there's the band leader. Anybody know who these people are? Any of them? The young ones be all grown up now, married, probably grandparents.
Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. Come along and be my party doll. I'll make
Here's some more of the booths.
I'll make love to you.
Yes, we had quite a time. Nothing will ever be like that in Norfolk again. Couldn't possibly be. We got away with things that I think today we'd be arrested for. And I hope someday to tell you about them or let you know about them through the boomerang or how, whatever. And there's the vigilantes. Hello again. Hi.
When I cried each time I saw the tide take our love letters.
And the band plays on.
You made a vow that you would ever be true, but somehow that vow meant nothing.
Well, we'll say goodbye.
Now my
And perhaps we'll see more of these films again on our centennial. Thank you.